at the age of 33, I learned of my diagnoses. And it was the point in time in which a lot of the things that I have been going through throughout my business career, I came to understand that this was it. This was the thing that all of that stuff had prepared me for. I was given an 8-day life sentence at diagnoses because I had
Mm.
advanced stage HIV, and my mother was told to prepare for my death while I was lying in my bed preparing for a rebirth. And so life began for me again at the age of 33.
Welcome to the Building the Noise podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Building the Noise podcast. I'm Matt Teresco, and with me today is the incomparable Warren O'Mara Dates. Warren is a unbelievable patient advocate, great friend as well, but truly the advocate's advocate in all communities, but especially the HIV/AIDS community. And Warren, you're coming to us today from Alabama?
Yeah, coming from a rural town in Alabama, northeast part of the state, probably set right in between Huntsville and Birmingham.
See, and this is what I love about you is that you tackle not just the issues of HIV/AIDS, but you tackle the community issues of Northeast Alabama. Those that, let's face it, most in the big cities do not understand.
Correct.
But at the same time, when we think about the industry and the behemoth of healthcare complexes, they really don't understand. So just to start, if you wouldn't mind giving our listeners just a bit of your background and what brought you, how did you find this wonderful space of patient advocacy?
Well, I don't know that I found it in so much as it found me.
That's right.
I would say at birth I was kind of dealt dealt the initial blow of faith, fate rather. Through
Mm,
faith, I realized that I was born for this because my initials are actually, and I'm married now, so O'Mara Dates is my current last name. However,
yeah.
my maiden name was Warren Alexander Dates. And so, for those who pay attention to the world of HIV, we
Hmm.
celebrate an annual day called World AIDS Day, and the initials for that is WAD.
Yeah.
So I came to understand a lot of my advocacy through my matriculation in high school, middle school, and college. Very involved in social programs during that time to make sure that equity was available to all of the students that I matriculated with. Ultimately became
Mm,
SGA president my senior year at college, and shook up the ranks of the college that now is celebrated over 125 years, that of Miles College, which is a United Negro College institution in Birmingham. And
yeah.
so I think again to your point, I was born for this. At the age of
Mm,
eight of at the age of 33, I learned of my diagnoses, and it was the point in time in which a lot of the things that I have been going through throughout my business career, I came to understand that this was it. This was the thing that all of that stuff had prepared me for. I was given an 8-day life sentence at diagnoses because I had
mm.
advanced stage HIV, and my mother was told to prepare for my death while I was lying in my bed preparing for a rebirth. And so life began for me again at the age of 33. And for those who are of faith, in particular the Christian
Hmm.
faith, as we just celebrated Easter on Sunday, I came to understand that God, through his son at the age of 33, had a different life to change the world. And so for me,
Amen.
the irony behind that did the same thing for me. And so I've spent my days post 33, and I won't tell everybody just how old I am now, but I'm half a century. I have spent the last
Oh,
17 years of my life trying to make a difference in the world, as our tagline for the foundation that I have, the 652 Project Foundation.
652.
It is making a difference for tomorrow's world today. And so I focus one day at a time on the projects and things that can benefit not just the rural people of Northeast Alabama, but rural communities across the country and around the globe, particularly because when we started the organization, we wanted it to reach beyond the walls of where we knew, in
Mm-hmm.
part because we had been fortunate enough to do some travels ourselves. And as a result of that, we wanted to be able to be a bridge to anyone who needed us,
Yes.
to be able to advocate on their behalf if they felt they didn't have the ability to do it themselves. And I'm going to
It.
apologize in advance, Matt, and to your audience. I currently have some medication that causes dry mouth when I talk a lot, so you will see me
Oh,
picking up a branded cup and taking a sip throughout, but it's not because
you do
I'm
that.
not wanting to talk. It's because I need to
I
wet my mouth to talk.
I've I've been there, and it's always great when they don't tell you about that side effect too. I've unfortunately faced that one before going on stage,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
hey, you just got to
mhm,
let folks know and roll with it. But honestly, what I love every time we have a conversation, God taps me on the shoulder. So
mhm,
one of the images I have in my daily to dos. I
mhm.
keep a typical journal, but it's a quote from Esther. Esther 4:14. I was born for such a time as
As
this.
this. That's it.
And you know, it just tickles me that you bring that up, that you were born for this, because I feel very much the same way. And it was at Mass on Sunday that I was reminded of the paralytic who was 38
Mhm,
when his life was changed.
mhm.
I was 38 when I had my spine surgery
Wow.
and found a rebirth of no pain.
Mhm.
And what was I going to do with that newfound world that
Exactly.
was open to me, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
you talk a lot about rural communities, and I want to make sure that the audience understands what's really going on outside of their four walls or outside of their neighborhood when it comes to the rural community in and of itself, but especially as you think about HIV/AIDS in the rural community.
Well, in the current climate, I think the impact is probably being felt by urban centers in the same way that we've had to tackle life in the rural communities around the country. I would say that for those who are tapped into politics, you understand that there are a lot of local hospitals that have been impacted by funding cuts,
Mm-hmm.
by folks not being able to afford the ability to go and see their providers because they don't have the means to afford healthcare in the current climate. So we're losing hospitals, we're losing providers who are going to larger centers to be able to practice solely because they're
Yeah.
not receiving enough payment for the insurances that are still operating and available to folks who have access. Not only that, we're seeing a lot of HIV consolidation happening because the smaller um, community-based organizations or CBOs and AIDS service organizations or ASOs are
Mm-hmm.
are in a position because of the funding that they depend on in order to operate being reduced and or flat funded in such a way that in order for them to sustain their operations, they're having to cut staff, and folks are having to take on multiple responsibilities. And I say, to those, welcome to our world as a foundation. We've always operated for
Mm.
the mass on a little and on the few, particularly because I always
Yeah.
said to folks, it doesn't take a lot of people to make an impact, but it takes a great number of folk to be reached through impact. And so we have
Ah.
always gone steady and slow because we knew the tortoise would win the race ultimately. And we've just waited on what God said was our turn to do what it is that
Mm.
we've been doing. And so we're fortunate that we've been able to sustain ourselves the last 17 years doing this work,
Yeah.
both, in our state and region, but also nationally.
Yeah. You know, as you think about the work that you're doing, there are probably plenty of folks in industry, but
Mhm.
also those that are, normal patients that don't even know that community-based organizations exist.
Exist. Yeah.
So, right? So let's give the audience a bit of a peek behind the curtain of where they can look, how they can find community-based organizations, and really what they're all about?
Yeah, I think it's important to start here. I don't endorse organizations generally speaking, but
Yeah.
I have industry partners that I've certainly referred folks to, and so I would say start with your local, if you have it, a local United Way.
Ah,
Generally, you would find many of those organizations that exist have some arm attached to the United Way, either by they are acting as a fiscal agent for them because they're not large enough to be able to bring in funds.
sure.
So there's that direct relationship. I would also, for those who are interested in specifically HIV, the HIV arena, if there's a local health department. Oftentimes, the person managing this disease state as a program manager on behalf of the state where you may be also has resources and information related to the community-based organizations and aid service organizations that are in your community.
Sure. And that's important for folks to recognize is that the hospital, for most, is not even an option,
Correct.
right? Or close enough to them to provide any sort of support. But there are groups like 652, correct?
652 Project. Yep.
Yeah. There are organizations like the 652 Project that are out there doing the work that is still left to be done, and a lot
Correct.
of it. I know that you guys are very busy, and what I love about what the 652 Project is built on and found on is doing the work that no one else was doing, right?
Correct.
That you knew needed to be done because of what you experienced, what your loved ones in your area were experiencing. You saw a problem and you filled it.
Well,
And
at
it's
least attempted.
yeah, but again, to do this for 17 years
Right.
is a testament to how well you've done it. Let's face it, small businesses on their own, I think, have a 99% failure rate in 3 years.
Correct.
Those that are fast on everything typically don't last. Those that are the loudest oftentimes don't last. And what I've always loved about you is that you're loud when you need to be, but oftentimes you're not.
True.
You know when action needs to be taken and when someone else may be better served taking that action.
I
And you're
I
never
appreciate that.
never afraid to pass it around, and to ensure that the right folks get the credit because you take a community approach, not just to advocacy but to life.
Correct.
And I think that means a lot to the patients that you serve. I know it does. But at the same time, what I love about community-based organizations that I don't think industry really understands is that you have the pulse of the community that the hospital used to have and no longer does.
Correct. I think, Matt, I will say this. In order to have a community-based organization, first and foremost, I think the individual leading it must be a part of the community that they're trying to serve. Oftentimes, we've seen folks lead organizations that have absolutely no direct correlation or relationship to what it is they're doing.
Yeah.
And when you talk about those organizations that fail, generally that's why they have so much turnover because the people that they're serving can't relate to them as leaders. And so when we started this organization, one, it was because of the things that you pointed out around services that I needed and my family needed to be able to sustain my life if that was going to happen, right?
Yeah.
However, it was also my true understanding that in order for me to ever make an impact, I had to walk the walk, talk the talk, and live the life that the
Yeah.
folks that I'm serving can recognize. And so when you compliment me and say that I have a community based approach, it's almost a mandate that I must, or I'm doing this for the wrong reasons, right? If I am going to serve and have served as a community voice, I cannot be that voice if I've not had the experiences that my peers
Yeah.
have had. I tell folks all the time, this struggle has been a real one. I've
Mm,
gone from not knowing that I was going to live to, yes, living in public housing, not knowing where I was going to live in between those places. I've had the
mm,
fortune of folks letting me couch surf until I could figure it out because
sure.
my reaching people was more important than me being housed in some cases. Of course, I learned later that I can't be of service to someone else if I'm not of service to myself. And so
Sure.
this 17 years has taught me a lot
Mm,
about myself, but also about the work because without experiencing those things, there's really no way to understand the need. And
yeah.
we've built our organization, its structure, and how we operate solely around people's lives and the interchangeability of those lives. Because yes, we may be fine today, but
Yeah.
anything can change that in a moment.
Yep. Yeah. And that's where I think community based organizations, especially ones like yours, really stand out. And I was excited for this call specifically because the industry, being pharma, biotech, med device, they're looking at how do we get awareness of a disease state, a product, whatever it may be, to
Uh-huh.
specific patient communities. And they try, as you know, to go it alone and think that they're going to somehow bring forth a trust out of nowhere,
Right, right.
never once thinking back to the history of the industry itself,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And I was honestly, I've been saving this conversation for you, which is the industry thinks it can generate trust.
Uh-huh.
Can you help our audience understand why that is not the case?
Yeah, it's very simple. If I'll use this analogy, if I'm not from the neighborhood, yet I walk into the neighborhood and decide I want to build something for it, nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, I'm not going to be successful if I don't reach the community and talk to the folks that are there. Because what I may be having as a vision to serve the community may or may not like.
Yeah.
Oftentimes I feel industry, will throw out a patient survey, for example, and they're interested in input. Or
Mm-hmm.
they'll organize an advisory group and they'll
Yes.
handpick folks that they recognize because they have a social presence. Um,
Mm.
those are not always the gatekeepers in the community. Some of
Yes.
us are, but many of the folks who are really, really engaged in the community, you'll never know their names. They don't want to be seen oftentimes.
Yeah.
They don't want to be on program oftentimes. They're the folks I
Mm.
always call the behind the curtain folk. And it's the behind the curtain
Sure.
folk that make
That are
any
most
production
important.
run.
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
the real champions and warriors. It's not the people that are on stage or in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Oftentimes that make that wheel roll. It's the folks behind them that you never see.
Mm.
And so I have always made sure that I don't take credit for anything that we do because it's not just me that's created this success. It's been our community writ large and those that
Yeah.
I have had the fortune of being able to tap into because of my intersectionalities that I
Mm-hmm.
think we have been around for the 17 years that we have.
See, and you bring up a great point. Community-based organizations that do it well, like the 652 Project Foundation, have identified that they are the intersectionality. You serve the community, and as you referenced before, whatever that means for the community itself, and it changes daily, I'm sure.
Correct.
But
Correct. I mean,
you know,
it's based on a lot of times it's based on the climate that we find ourselves in, and
yeah,
that climate is not just national, it's local more
mm,
than anything. And within a local community, particularly rural, You
Yeah.
oftentimes have challenges around city governments competing against each other instead of
Ah.
regionally working together. So those are the dynamics that we have to sometimes navigate. It's not,
Yeah.
and then you layer on top of that the states that we may reside in, and then you talk
Mm.
about the region of which we're in, and then you get to the national perspective. So
Sure.
there are many layers that organizations like mine have to figure out strategy of opportunity to be able to navigate through, whether it be the laws,
Mm.
whether it be the funding, whether it be the exposure and or safety necessary to be able to do the work, because
Yep.
oftentimes that's the last thing that our funders and our pharma partners tend to think about.
Yeah.
They want to have an impact, but they don't consider the safety of the individuals that they're trying to impact.
See, and that's where we've seen so many campaigns. I don't care what company it is, what their efforts were. We've seen them all fail, and then it gets chalked up to, oh, it's not going to work that way. We can't do that, right? When you know it's that there's a lack of knowledge because they're
Mhm.
not in the community. So
Correct.
stop going it alone and find organizations like yours to build whatever it is that you're looking to build. If it's an awareness campaign, it's go to those folks who already have the trust. And this is honestly the most frustrating part about what I do is working with industry in their patient advocacy and patient engagement functions. And they get an ask from marketing about, hey, can we do XYZ? And they say, yeah, because they're trying to fight for their careers. Don't know how they're going to do it and think, all right, well, we're just going to start doing some targeted ads like that's going to do anything,
Right.
right? So if you were, let's say, in the shoes of a large pharma or biotech company, what is the value of going to a community-based organization for partnership?
I think that's a great question for one. The value is if you want success from a campaign that you're trying to launch, that would be the first step that you should take. Even before the campaign is created, community-based organizations and community gatekeepers should be your first step. I think back to the Denver principles of HIV.
Yes.
Nothing for us without us. And so, if you're going to create something, I should be a part of everything from the idea. I should not be a part of something once you've strategized what it should look like, where it should reach, how it should be
Yes.
delivered, and who's going to be involved. Because oftentimes, if I'm not at those four seats of the table, which are many more around, then oftentimes you're just not going to get that response. And I'm a firm believer that if I bump my head once, that's enough bumping my head for me. I'm not
Yeah.
going to keep bumping my head over and over trying to knock some
Yeah.
sense into myself. When
Yeah.
I see it doesn't work, obviously something I've done is wrong.
Sure.
Maybe I made
Yep.
the wrong turn, even if it was on the third tier of what I'm doing. If I'm not listening, it's not going
Sure.
to work.
Yeah. It's so true. And we see unfortunately in industry that the same cookbook is used no matter
Mhm.
if they bump their head or not, and constant failure, which results in the lack of awareness of why it's so
Mhm.
important to go to the patient community.
Absolutely.
And it's infuriating to me that the industry itself, for the most part, does not see the patient as the customer.
When if
They
it
see
weren't
the
for the patient,
doctors.
if it weren't for the patient, there would be no doctor and there would be no pharmaceutical need. There would be no
Thank you.
there would be no
Amen.
product, and
Yes.
I'm not just going to say pharmaceutical. There would be no product delivery, because that applies to any industry, large or small.
Yes.
The client that you are to serve is necessary for the growth of your organization, company, writ large, to be able to be successful. Without us,
Yep.
and we see this. We see this often in
Yeah.
other industries, Matt, where people walk out, and then the executives of the company go, "Huh? What happened?" Well, what
Yeah.
happened? As we say sometimes in the South, what happened was you didn't listen to what we were trying to tell you. And,
Bless your heart, bud.
right, in order to get your attention, then unfortunately, those level of strategy must be put into place in order for you to listen. And
Hmm.
it shouldn't ever in 2026, it shouldn't ever be
Yeah.
the case
Sure.
when it comes to our partners, and
Yeah.
the needs that we have for delivery of care to communities across this country, and quite frankly around the world.
Yeah. And honestly, as you referenced, how can you call yourself a partner if you're only showing up when you need something?
Correct.
Right. And I think that that is something that I know I harp on with industry. We see companies, it's almost like we see a 3-year cycle of a
Hmm.
pendulum shift of,
Hmm.
oh, let's go and work with the communities and patients, and then, oh, maybe not, because everything in the industry is quarterly and annual budgets.
Correct.
And you've been doing this for a very long time, 17 years. You know that nothing happens in a quarter or an annual mindset, right? So,
Unless we're forced to make it happen. I don't do it that way if I can help it.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just we're trying to help folks who play checkers
Yeah.
understand chess,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
We are.
So
And I'll be honest with you. I'm a checkers player, and not a chess player. However, I've had to learn the game in order to be
yeah,
able to navigate
sure,
the
yeah,
situation. Because again, I operate in such a way that I think if we just do it the right way, it's so much less stressful.
mm,
We don't take as much time trying to create change.
yeah,
We don't expend too many resources trying to infiltrate what could be very easily done if you just brought the right people to the table.
sure,
And so, again, by trial and error, the information that I'm sharing with your audience today, while I get paid to do this,
hmm,
for other industry partners, I'm always telling folks it's free. Just watch.
mm,
It's not, I'm not, it, I haven't come up with the special sauce. I haven't come up with this,
sure,
with the special formula. However, I've created a formula that I know works. And
sure.
that formula at the very bottom base of it says COMMUNITY. And I like
Yeah.
the end of that word and the beginning of that word because I'm a wordaholic. If you come to the community, you see unity in what you're trying to do.
That is gold. If you come to the community, you see unity
In what you're trying to do.
in what you're trying to do. So you've hit us with 3 amazing pearls. If I could recap, number 1, if you come to the community, you see unity in what you're trying to do. Without the patient, there is no industry.
That's
There
correct.
is no there's no physician, there is no hospital. There's no need for that. So stop putting us last.
Uh-huh.
And thirdly, if not most importantly, when you talk about the Denver principles, nothing about us or for us without
Without
us.
us. Hmm.
And why those 3 pillars are not the foundation of every pharmaceutical company, not just in writing,
Hmm.
right, but
But
in
in
action.
but in action, yeah.
Yeah, that's where they need to be, and it's my dream
Hmm.
that Maha Kennedy, like him or hate him, it's my dream that he outlaws commercials so that we can utilize those budgets appropriately to do that work of working with the community rather than for the community or doing something to the community.
Uh-huh.
It's let them breathe, let them you understand your patients in your community better than anybody.
Ever will. Ever
Exactly.
will.
So stop trying to recreate the wheel and, as you referenced, doing a survey and hoping that just your survey output is going to be enough
Mm-hmm.
to then build a program that's going to be sustainable.
Correct.
It's got to be going to the community for that unity, as you referenced, to ensure that we have lasting impact.
Correct.
It's, I mean, you're putting on an MBA program right now for anyone in patient advocacy. Now, I want to go back to
Okay.
652.
Let's do it.
How did it come?
Where did that
And
name come
where did it
from?
come from? Where
That's
did the name come from? Where did the
that's
organization come from? And why did you start it?
that's the question I get often. Is people are always trying to figure out what our logo is, what does the 652 represent? And it's my name within a name. So when I
Ah,
convened my initial board of trustees and directors to be able to form the organization, I told them I did not want this named after me.
sure.
But they insisted that it must, in some way, honor me. And so 652 is the time that I was born. On January
Ah,
14th, I will share that with everybody. And so we looked at the synergy of numbers. We looked at that was when I learned the time that I was born and never known it for 33 years until that point.
AM or
Um,
PM?
I'm AM,
AM.
6:52 in the morning. So
Wow.
sun rises for me every morning, and I'm up usually by that time, so I can see it.
There you go. That's great.
And grateful that I get to see it at this point, and I say happy birthday to me every morning. So that's the
Amen.
birth of the organization. It came as a result of my HIV diagnoses, which is where the red color in the actual logo comes from, and because I found myself wanting to take care of folks in the way that I had been taken care of. We created a foundation, for example, instead of creating something that could be controlled under other federal laws.
Yeah.
There are people, obviously, that still have stigma associated with my disease state or my initial disease state that's brought on other
Yeah.
things. And so we give them the ability to donate to us without having to go public because we created created a way for them to be able to support the cause because of where we still stand in this country
Yeah.
around the stigma associated with HIV.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was the birth. Started the organization a couple days right after my birthday in 2010. So we were chartered
Wow.
January 16th, 20, 2010. So it's been around
Wow.
16 going on 17 years.
That's amazing. So, January 16th, 2010,
Hmm.
brought forth this 652 Project Foundation.
Yep.
What was the why? Why you had referenced, to ensure that folks got the level of care that you did. But what did it take for you to finally get that level of care that you decided
Having,
to, I got to
well, I'll
shift
tell
this?
you, advocacy, I guess, is in my bones because my mother probably started the organization without even knowing she was doing it. While I was not in a position, while I was not in a position to advocate for myself at the time that we found out about my advanced stage HIV disease,
Yeah.
um, um, my mother, when she was told that she would have to bury me in the not so distant future to prepare to do that, she fired the doctor who had that conversation with her. She said, "You will not serve my son
Yeah.
anymore because if you can't believe that one he is able to overcome, then you certainly can't treat him toward that journey." And so she advocated for me when I didn't even realize it. It was years later that I found out that that conversation even took place.
God bless her.
Um, and so I was fortunate to get the provider that I did at the time. And I stayed in the hospital, I guess, 21 days. Spent my Thanksgiving that year in the hospital. And
Wow.
when I rolled out of the hospital because I'd lost all ability to move, um, was barely talking. First thing I said to my mother is, "Today is the beginning of a new life," and we did that 2 months later.
Wow. That's that gives me chills just thinking about. But God bless your mother for taking that action. I think the difficult part for so many people is to recognize that they don't have to do it alone.
That's
That
correct.
there are right that there are people out there that if you just give them the gift,
Uh-huh.
truly the gift of supporting you,
Mhm.
how much they'll show up in droves.
And it's very difficult. I'll be quite frank with you. As a person
Please.
who is a leader,
Yeah.
it's hard sometimes to share the
Sure.
vulnerabilities of yourself with
Yeah.
others. I don't take lightly the position that I'm in because I know personally it's difficult for me to talk to people about myself. This
Sure. Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah.
when we talked about it, I said, "This ain't about me. I don't want.
Yeah.
This is just not how I mean, I've never done it well.
Yeah.
I've had probably 40 years to be able to get
Underselling
ready for it.
yourself for 17 years with the 652 project, but
And
it's
I
still
still
going.
find it difficult to do,
Yeah.
only because again, for me, it's about the work. It's not about me.
Yeah.
How do I make this even more efficient? How do I reach even more people?
Mm.
How do I save one more life?
Mm.
Um, is always what my wheels spin. Um,
Yeah.
and and for me, it sometimes means being out, forward facing, but that's a scary thought
Yeah.
sometimes. But then you have to say there are leaders in this world that have made the bold decision to stand up when no one else would.
Uh,
And I'm fortunate to be called one of those people by my community. But if
yep.
only folks knew how scared it is for
Yeah.
me to do it,
Sure.
they would
Yeah.
understand that I truly love the people of my communities.
You love them. Yep.
Because it's a difficult task. And
Yeah.
so sometimes Pharma will say that, well, people don't want to come forward because of the safety issue. Well, I say if you create
Mm-hmm.
a space that's safe enough for them, then they don't feel the burden.
Great
And
point.
the way for you to create that space is by asking them where that space exists because it's already there. Every
Yeah.
community has a safe place to go
Mm.
within their community. You might not know it, but it's there. There's
Sure.
somebody, I think about childhood when we were playing in the community and somebody wanted to rile up at one of our friends or something. If we felt that we needed an escape, we all
Yeah.
knew whose house we could run to. We all
That's an
knew. It was
amazing point.
nobody had to say we're going here. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
knew where that place was.
Yeah.
Because
And
if we're being targeted,
yeah.
be damned that we're going to share where our safe place is, where we can actually
Yeah.
reorganize
Yes.
and re-energize and get back out there.
Yep. Yep. That it's an amazing feeling when you know it,
Yeah.
right? When you know where that safe space is.
And that
And correct
trust
me
is
if I'm
only
wrong.
built by
Mm.
community itself. It's only built by community itself.
So that's what the 652 project is, right?
That's what it
Is
is.
building that community safe space
Uh-huh.
and ensuring that people are aware of it and serving those who show up on the doorstep, no matter the needs are.
And that's an adoption from the quote traditional church. You know, everybody's supposed to be welcomed, but not everybody feels welcome once they get there.
Yes. Yes.
Um, we've
See it
created a
all the
space.
time. Yeah.
We've created a space where I don't care where you come from, I don't care
Hmm.
what you look like, I don't care what your ability is. You're going to be loved on when you come through our doors. You're going to
Yeah.
be loved on when you come to our functions. You're going to be loved on when you come to our webinars. You're going to
Yeah.
be loved on when you come to a conference that we're presenting in. Because first and foremost, your safety is my priority. Until I feel that it's safe enough for me to speak, I've tapped into where you feel comfortable. Then
Sure.
nothing I say will ever impact you. Until that is established, nothing I say will ever impact you.
Yeah. Because I mean, I remember back during COVID, speaking with a patient, and if you remember those days, everyone was all in on telemedicine,
Oh, yeah.
not quite understanding what that meant to everyone in
Uh-huh.
different facets of life.
Uh-huh.
And I clearly and vividly still remember the story of this young gentleman who had yet to tell any family members, not only of his diagnosis, but
Uh-huh.
of his, being out, so to speak, right? And the only space in the home that had internet access was in the kitchen.
Uh, wow.
So there was not a safe space for this individual, and that just clearly shows me the need for organizations like yours, but also, let's be honest, that used to be the hospital in the 90s.
Yeah.
what what has happened, in your opinion, that has brought us to where we are, in which it seems the hospital and everyone ultimately sees the patient as a side effect of healthcare?
Well, because they've made money,
Mm,
and for those of us who are tied to some religion, we know that there is a scripture that says money is the root of
yes.
all. And the word that comes behind that we know is EVIL, evil.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they have their eyes set on the dollars,
Yeah.
and as a result of them having their eyes set on the dollars, they've lost their sense.
Mm, yep. And
They've
that's
lost their sense.
they lost their sense, focused on the revenue.
Focused on the dollars. They lost their
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
Um, I told you I'm a play on words. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
I love it. I
so
love it.
oftentimes I say to folk, um, hospitals are there to serve you based on the Hippocratic oath and
Mm-hmm.
the medical oaths that these professionals take. Regardless of your ability to pay, there's never a reason why you shouldn't go to emergency room. If you have an emergency, go.
Yes.
If they demand money, you deny it because they must care for you regardless
No
of your
matter what.
ability to pay. If the
Yes.
money is more important than your being well, then that's not the hospital for you to be served in.
Oh, I could not agree more. The number of conversations I've had with patients, just knowing that they can leave,
Uh-huh.
knowing that they can go somewhere else in the first place, I think is a gap in our
It
health
is.
literacy,
And
right? But
and a gap
it's
in the
important.
offerings because for rural communities, not all of them have more than one opportunity to go. We're
Yeah.
fortunate that we have two hospitals here. However, any advocate has the right to tell someone they must care for them, no matter who it may be. If they're in
Yeah.
an emergent situation, we oftentimes get afraid. We have fear. We have what's called the white coat syndrome that
Let's
we
dive
know
into that one.
all
Tell
too well in the
Yeah.
South, where there's this hierarchical dynamic. whereby because I wear the white coat, I hold and yield the power. Because
Mm-hmm.
you are the person that needs my expertise, if I take take that away from you, or I do take that away from you solely because I have this coat on. And so I oftentimes tell clients of mine, if your provider can't be someone who looks like you and dresses like you when you see them,
Yeah.
they may not be the right somebody to serve you.
Mm.
Our providers don't wear white coats. They look like everyday folk.
Sure.
They sit with us like we're in the living room when they provide for us, even though we're in a medical establishment. And I kind of dove into what we're talking about when it comes to my clinic. But even with our people that are
Yeah.
serving the community within the foundation, when we bring folks in, we have a community room. That community room was built by community. The colors that we chose, the furnishings that were put in it, the design of what the wall looks like, all of those things came from community input. So that when folks walked in the door, somewhere in that scheme,
Yeah.
they saw themselves.
Ugh.
They could see themselves. So that once we get them comfortable, we can find out what need it is that we need to fill.
Because you've knocked down the barriers, the mental barriers that we all have when we get into that, for lack of better terminology, oh shit situation,
Uh-huh.
right? And we need that comfort,
Right. Right.
and
I,
it's
you know,
amazing
it
what you've built.
it's remembering that we're human
Mm.
first. The humanity of everyone is important. And
Yes.
and the humanity of everyone is equal. We as a society have created tiers,
Mm.
but the reality is that we are truly equal.
Yep.
And when you meet people in that space, when they show up, you will get so much information to be helpful, to be
Sure.
able to serve them, so that when they leave you feeling whole again. Because no one should ever leave any establishment for care not feeling like they got what they needed when they showed up. If they do, the mark has been missed.
Mm. And unfortunately, we hear from patients all the time about
That being the
them
case.
leaving,
Yep.
right? That being the case, that they
Hmm.
don't feel heard, or that there was a stigma, as you discussed earlier.
Hmm.
And let's be honest, we have what, on average, 7 minutes with most doctors these days?
Hmm.
How is there ever a chance for a patient to feel at ease
If we're
and
rushed through
want
every
to
process.
share it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the
We're
unique
rushed
thing.
for the profit.
And that's the unique thing about our, and I apologize to the audience if you heard that
No.
beep. That was my insulin pump going off. Um, it, if you, if you overload your day with
Yeah.
clients, in a medical treatment, establishments, then yes, you're going to have that 7 minute engagement. We
Hmm.
don't do that. We don't care for more than 3 clients in an hour because
Wow.
we want to make sure we serve the whole person when we do see them. We first of all got to figure out if you're safe. You got somewhere to stay. You got something to eat.
Mm.
Those social
Sure.
determinants of health must be met first. Then, now that we know that you're fine in that regard, then now we can move on to what's the problem that you came here for. Let's talk about how we got here, right?
Yeah.
Now that now that we've been able to tackle how you got here, let's talk to you about what opportunity for solution we have. And then before you
Yep.
leave, let's make sure you got all the critical things necessary to be successful when you're gone until we see you again. Not that we want to see you again for the same reasons you were here today, but we want to
Sure.
follow up and make sure that you're okay. So don't be
Yep.
surprised when we call you and tell you, we're just checking on you. We're not calling to make an appointment. We're just calling to check on you.
See, so you literally, I would say you should write the book because there is no book, but on whole patient care.
Absolutely.
And I love that you don't call them customer or
Nope.
client or patients. You call them clients.
Clients. Because they're people.
Tell me more about that.
They're
There you go.
people. I'm I'm not a product. I have a product, but I'm not a product. I'm a person.
Sure.
And so language matters.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Yep.
call you a client, you're humanized.
Mm.
If I call you a patient, I always go to the thought, how many of us have it?
Sure.
We don't have it.
Yep.
We're a country that has very little patience. So why
Yes.
are you gonna associate me with something that we got very little of?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
so true.
I want you to associate me with something that has value.
Yeah.
Associate me with something that has value. I bring value to your company. I have something that you need, like
Mm-hmm.
you have something I need.
Yeah.
My subject matter expertise is as valuable, if not more, than any degree that I could be
Yes.
trained for. Because I don't care how much language you teach in a textbook,
Mm.
it doesn't always correlate in the same way that I live from day to day.
Yes. Yep. And I harp on this same similar words that you've said here, which is that the patient voice is the most underutilized, if not ignored, data set in all of healthcare,
Absolutely correct.
right? Because, as you've so beautifully put it, we don't see patients as clients. We just see them as this
As a
patient,
product.
or
As a
better yet,
product.
a number, a product.
As a product.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, how many of you can I bring in to help my bottom line grow today? That's how,
Yep.
I mean, and that's how it feels.
Yeah.
In that 7 minutes, that's how I feel. I feel like a product.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm in product development for 7 minutes. And when I
Mm.
leave and you've given me the solution, you didn't explain how I'm gonna use it. You didn't tell me what it would cost to get it.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me how it would make me feel once I did it. I did use it. And you didn't tell me what I shouldn't do in my everyday life circle that would
Mm-hmm.
impact how that could help me.
Sure.
So I left with less information than I really needed to be successful. Because
Yeah.
4 things you failed to tell me in the process of telling me this is what we're going to do for you.
Yeah. That you have brought a line of insight and thinking that everyone in healthcare needs to understand.
Absolutely.
We have to have this mindset shift of, as a patient, you are not the product, you are the client.
Uh-huh.
And if all you're worried about is having 85% of your beds filled with products,
Uh-huh.
we're focused on the wrong thing.
Absolutely wrong thing.
I don't want to have 85% of my beds filled if I ran a hospital. I want none. I want
Correct.
nobody there.
I don't
Right?
need I don't want people in the hospital. But
Yes.
they're there because we failed to inform them of all the things they needed to know when they came to us for their last visit.
Yeah. Yep.
So they become repeat product
Repeat customer. Repeat
patient.
product. Come on back. We'll see you next time.
So it's a cycle,
Right?
you know? It's
Yeah.
almost like it's developed as a cycle.
Yeah. So, how do we get this paradigm shift? And let's not even think about the business side. Like,
Correct.
how do you get people to recognize their own value in this ecosystem?
Boy, that's, you know, that's a hard one, but it's an easy one. Matt, we are up against a system that's over 150 years old.
Yeah.
It was by design
Mm-hmm.
that
It ain't broken.
people have a codependency
Mm.
to the systems that they are served by. Notice I'm not just solely talking healthcare here, because
Yeah.
in all of our disease states there are many systems that we must adapt to in order for us to be quote unquote healed
Mm.
with whatever it is that we find ourselves having
Fighting.
to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as a result, I think the only way that we're going to change it, and again, you said let's leave business out of it, but we have got to challenge business. We've got to
Yes.
challenge government. We've got to
Mm-hmm.
challenge the little c
Yeah.
stigma around everything that we have come to adapt to over the last 150 years.
Yeah. It's like uh, Stockholm syndrome, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Or,
We become comfortable with this terrible system.
because it's the comfortable way of life.
Yeah.
And we, as advocate leaders and community representation, have a a a responsibility to empower
Mm.
our fellow community members with the knowledge that we've come to share amongst ourselves in
Yeah.
such a way that, as we've seen in the pillars of government over the last 6 months in particular,
Mm-hmm.
if it could just take one of us to show millions of us that our voice still matters.
Yes. So, so true. And it's the word that you used, empower, is near and dear to me. I don't even think I told you, I'm building a patient education platform
Mhm.
where trying to shift the paradigm of how individuals can show up in
Uh-huh.
healthcare,
Uh-huh.
to be more prepared, to be empowered, to ask questions, to push, to know that at the end of the day, healthcare is a economy.
It's a
It's right.
and it
It's
and it's a right.
yeah, and you have the right to get what you deserve, but you have to be comfortable as if you were at a restaurant sending it back. You can do the same in healthcare.
That's
You
correct.
don't have to settle. You don't. I think, as you referenced, comfort has to become our enemy in healthcare.
Mhm.
Yes, the urgent care is easy,
Uh-huh.
but a relationship with your primary care physician is more beneficial
In the long run.
in the long term,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So we can't just seek comfort. And perhaps I know this in my own story. Comfort was what was killing me. It was being comfortable with, okay, yeah, well, fine. I'm not going to fight. We'll just take the opiate, whatever. No, that could have ended up very differently.
We wouldn't be talking today.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I want to be cognizant of your time. I could talk with you for hours,
And that would be
but I want
fine.
to. I know. I want. I
That
want
would
to.
be
I
fine
want
too.
to. Right. I want to close on just two final questions. As you think about all that you've done,
Mhm.
what inspires you to continue fighting every single day? Because I know it's a fight.
That's a great question. My faith,
Mm,
first and foremost, most
yeah.
is a reminder that I'm gifted every moment. And if I'm gifted every moment, how will I choose to use it?
Yeah.
And if I can't do so by doing something that helps someone else, then why have I been continually
Mm,
given the gift? I talk
I love
about
that.
life for me is like a cat at this point. I'm on life number 4. And as I reach the trajectory of life number 5, entering into
Hmm.
my 5th decade on this earth, if what I do is not helpful for someone else, then I need to step aside
Mm,
because I'm more engaged with being helpful for me
okay. Yep.
and not helpful for we.
Sure.
So that that driver of heart,
Hmm.
of mind, of spirit is what keeps me going every day.
Sure.
6:52 a.m. is what gets me up every day. But my
Amen.
community and the
Yeah.
and the clarion call of
Mm,
knowing we've not arrived yet is the driver behind, even in the midst of my own personal recovery right now from a major
yep.
spinal surgery.
Major.
I'm still here, Matt, to
Yeah.
serve. I'm still here to serve. And
As you're called.
until I'm called home,
Hmm.
I think I'll serve because it's all I know.
I love it. I love it. Well, my last question for you is let's go back to when you were in that hospital bed, 33 years old, right? Am I
Mhm.
correct?
Yep.
What would you tell that Warren while you're laying in that hospital bed? What will be your words of advice you would tell that Warren?
Be patient.
Mm.
God is not through with you yet. I would tell him, you are built for this. And I would tell him, I'm proud of you
Oh,
because you've been through the fire. You've seen the floods.
yeah.
You have come through valleys. But when it's all over, you'll stand on top of the mountain and you'll breathe again.
Amen. I'm holding back tears at this moment because the same words that you used are the ones I find myself telling myself. It, as I'm sure when you made the decision to create 652, there was probably a lot of internal dialogue around, can I do this? Well, no, I can because I was built to do this.
But I
And
always, even in the midst of that, I'm glad you brought this up, and I know we're trying to wrap up. But
no,
even in the midst of that thought, the first thing I said to myself, how is my family going to be impacted? I, I still thought about others.
others. Yep.
And so I rallied the family together and I said, this is what God has laid on my heart to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can't support it, we can't go with it. We
Yeah. You can't
can't
go
do it.
forward. Yeah.
Every time I ran for office, did the same thing. Because people don't realize that though they may not be directly connected to the thing that
Mm-hmm.
you do, they too
They will be.
have impact from
Yes.
your actions.
Yes.
I am so grateful to have had the support of my family, now of my spouse,
Mm-hmm.
my chosen family, because all of them, when my name gets called, come with me.
Yeah.
And without them, I wouldn't have the strength to do what I do.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
And
so if I can leave you with a parting word,
yes.
it would be, don't wait for someone to tell folks about you when you're gone. Write your own story while you still yet have time.